This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. And in case you guys didn't know, a few months ago, I was invited to give a presentation in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And my talk was all about social engineering and behavioral sciences, and more specifically, how the Canadian government was using covert tactics during COVID to steer people's ideas and behaviors and opinions and thoughts into their desired direction, into an area where people wouldn't normally go on their own, like social distancing and masking and taking part in the global inoculation program, and more specifically about how people could free themselves from that type of mind control and free others from that type of mind control. And interestingly enough, there was another speaker at this event who actually happens to be an expert on mind control. In fact, he made a documentary film about mind control called Planet Mind Control. And so now that we're moving from the era of COVID 1984 and shifting into these new potential global pandemics like hantavirus, or now Ebola apparently is creeping up again, I figured now might be a good time to have him on to discuss how these things work. So joining me on the line right now is Jason Christoff. Jason, thank you so much, man, for joining us here today. jchristoff.com is the website. I wanted to get your take on how these things happen in this day and age. I mean, when most people hear about the topic of mind control, they probably think about the CIA's, 1960s MK Ultra projects, and not realizing that not only have those things continued, but now they've kind of moved into an area of being more covert, where the people who are being worked on don't even necessarily know that they are being worked on. So considering everything we're dealing with today, I wanted to get your take on some of the current tactics that they use, how they are able to manipulate people's behaviors, and of course, what people can do to break free from that. But before we get into all that, maybe you could start us off here by telling us a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you get involved, first of all, into the area of researching mind control to the point of making a full-length feature documentary film called Planet Mind Control?
Well, I mean, it's not a really long story, but I used to have a small chain of fitness clubs in Canada, and I used to train there as the head trainer as well. And I found a lot of my clients were afraid to do what they employed me to do, which was get in shape. So I was trained under Paul Chek. He's one of the best holistic trainers in the world. And I phoned his institute and said, I'm charging some big money here, and there's lots of people handing over big amounts of cash for me to get them in shape, and they seem very adverse to, going through with their goals. I mean, what's going on here? It's kind of getting embarrassing. And they said, well, they're under mind control. And I said, well, what do you mean mind control? And why didn't you teach me that? And he said, well, you only went in the first 2 rounds of the Institute. We teach that later in the Institute if you would have stuck around. So I said, well, can I get any information on this? And why would someone not want to lose weight and look better and feel better, especially if they pay you thousands of dollars? It's very illogical. It's very irrational. And the lady on the other line said, look, it's about group behavior. Like if you're from a family who is overweight, it's actually dangerous to be thin. And we're pack animals, we're group animals. We want to be one with the herd. We want to be accepted. So sort of like the most repetitive exposures that we see in our environment, that sort of leads what the majority is doing. And so although it is logical to be in shape and lose weight, if you're getting all these repetitive downloads from your environment that it's not safe because the majority is overweight, your subconscious decides for you and keeps you overweight. And they said it goes for everything. If you're from a poverty-based tribe and you want to be more financially abundant, your nervous system will fire fear-based impulses down your neurology to deter you from your wealth or abundance-based goals so that you stay accepted with the bigger group. So a lot of mind control is based on group dynamics. So I started to study quite intently and intensely on this subject and started using positive forms of mind control to trick my clients out of what they were doing at the time. It became very successful. I went online. I started giving presentations on it. I was invited to different world parliaments to speak on it. I spoke at the U.S. Senate on the floor of the U.S. Senate on the same subject. So it's been a bit of a wild ride. And then I made the documentary, and we do get a lot of requests for interviews and explanations because it's a very interesting subject. Because human behavior is very comical when you really take a look at it.
Yeah, a lot of people have seen how mob mentality can kick in very quickly, and like you said, people are, kind of like want to behave like their tribe. They want to, not be that black sheep outsider. And so it seems that the powers that ought not be, as I like to call them, have realized this as well and started to use certain tactics and techniques to shape people's ideas and behaviors into their own desired direction. Like in Canada, we had during COVID this council that started using something that actually came out of the UK. That was called the nudge theory or the nudge factor. It was a book that was written by Cass Sunstein, and this was covert tactics to basically nudge people along into your desired direction, into places they normally wouldn't go. So when dealing with things like global pandemics, what are some of the tactics that you've noticed that are being used on people so that they would do things that they normally wouldn't want to do, like take part in the global inoculation program, to put on, masks while they're walking outside all by themselves, or to social distance? I mean, how are they able to manipulate people to that extent?
Well, they can make humans do anything they want. They just have to control the repetitive content of the environment because the subconscious will count the repetitive content all the time, tabulate it. The most repetitive content establishes what the majority is doing. This all happens invisibly. And then once the repetitive content is tabulated and the majority is identified outside your conscious awareness, it actually forces you to walk lockstep with it. All of it outside your conscious awareness or conscious control. It's sort of like your heartbeat, Dan. I mean, you're not in control of it. Your eyes blinking, you're not in control of it. You're digesting your food right now, you're not in control of it. If there's a female listening today and her menstruation cycle, she's not in control of it. So we do know we have biological functions that we don't control, but no one really knows about this accounting for repetitive content function. It's a safety-based mechanism. Your subconscious wants to keep you safe, whereas the bigger group, it's safer in the bigger group. But the bigger group equates to the most repetitive content. So it's not just repetitive content, it's the subconscious mind, sort of tagging the most repetitive content as the safest. It's what the bigger group is saying, thinking, or doing. So you adopt it as your own, as part of this safety protocol. And so what the controllers will do is they'll take, say, over the past 15 or 20 years, there was more than 500 movies in a very particular genre, and it was about zombies and vaccines and spreading viruses. And that's enough repetitive content. So you don't have to see all 500 of these films that are purposely made to control your environment. You might have saw World War Z with Brad Pitt, or you would have seen maybe I Am Legend with Will Smith. And the psychological nudging is mostly done through movies and TV shows. Like I Am Legend with Will Smith, you had the zombie apocalypse, and it started off with a vaccine trying to treat, I believe, cancer. And Will Smith was looking for the next inoculation that would turn the zombies back to humans. But the big thing about something like I Am Legend with Will Smith, it really talks to the subconscious and to our neurological protection systems because Will Smith, not only he lost his job, He lost his wife, and a lot of people have to go back and maybe watch this again because he lost his job, he lost his wife, he lost his daughter, he lost his city. He lost, and then at the very end, because of this big brouhaha with the zombie apocalypse in New York City, he lost his dog. And this is meant to really speak to the nervous system and say, you don't want to be in a zombie apocalypse. You will lose everything. So if they're going to offer something to you, like Will Smith was looking for that final inoculation to turn all the zombies back to human, this sort of thing, when you're exposed to it, you think this is an entertainment based movie. This is a psychological nudge unit all on its own to almost give you your PhD in virology from Hollywood University, so that when they go live with their exercise, your nervous system is tugging on your shirt saying, "Hey, Dan, I know what to do. I have all this repetitive content from all these movies." And the subconscious mind is proven not to know the difference between what's on a screen, what's happening in real life, and imagined thought. So it thinks it's been watching the tribe, and it has collected all this repetitive content to say, hey, Dan, with this particular situation, I already have a full list of things that can make us safe. And if you watch the movie Contagion with Lawrence Fishburne and Matt Damon, you'll see that the masking was involved, the FDA was involved, there was asymptomatic spread, the virus was out of China, and you have all the repetitive content there to pretty well pre-format the human nervous system so that it has those answers that appear to be organic in, say, 2020, but all those answers and solutions and remedies were carefully dropped in there by our mind control experts hiding behind the green curtain at Oz, if you know what I mean.
Wow. Talk about predictive programming, and I guess that's why they call it television programming in the first place. But I mean, this implies a a major conspiracy behind the scenes of people working together to make this happen. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the script writers are in on it, does it? It could just be that these Hollywood producers are giving the green light to certain scripts that fit the narrative. So it's a bit of a compartmentalization system, right? Where the actual writers are not necessarily in on this scheme, but they are the ones getting the budget handed down to them because it fits the narrative. Is it something like that, or a little bit more involved?
Oh, it's exactly like that. You don't need anybody but the person at the top sort of yelling down the pyramid and saying, for the next 15 years, we prefer some zombie virus, vaccine saves the day sort of scripts. And you can see so many were like this. World War Z. I mean, even when I was a kid, Dustin Hoffman and Outbreak, even movies like Hobbs and Shaw with The Rock and Jason Statham, someone might even remember the title, Hobbs and Shaw. I remember it had The Rock in it, someone might say, or I remember Jason Statham was in it, but do you remember it was about a virus? Do you remember Angels and Demons with Tom Hanks? Everybody would be like, yeah, I know Tom Hanks. I remember the movie Angels and Demons, but do you remember it was about a virus? Wild virus that was going to go out and take the world over. So there's so many of these movies, and it's being proven. You said it, predictive programming, but predictive programming is usually just the first repetition of the idea that will, your subconscious records everything. So they'll sprinkle in that first repetition. And you know how many repetitions you need to change behavior in the human psyche? Two.
Hmm.
So predictive programming lays in the first repetition of what might seem like a fantastical idea, but then they go either live with their theater exercise in real time, or they might have all these other movies in the same genre, and then everybody's afraid of something that might not even exist. I mean, in the movie as well, there was social contagion, there was social distancing, hand washing, mask wearing. The gyms were closed, the airports were closed. They were burying people outside because the hospitals were full. And that exercise went live in New York City at Elmhurst Hospital, where they told the public that they were burying bodies on Hart Island. But they always did. They always buried bodies on Hart Island, but they had a helicopter come over and film the prisoners. It's prisoners that bury unclaimed bodies out of New York City on Hart Island. They've always done that. But the scene that was shot from the helicopter in 2021, and it was reported in the New York Post and the New York Times, it was framed exactly as the same scene in Contagion, which was a movie that came out 9 years prior.
Hmm. Man,
Yeah.
am I
It,
ever glad I got rid of my television in 2012. I got rid of cable. I got rid of the TV. I haven't had a physical TV in like over 15 years or so. And maybe that has to do with why I'm able to see through this stuff. But considering all this, would it be possible to engage in reverse engineering to the extent where, let's say, if you're aware of this kind of stuff, maybe you can now start to take mental notes and notice, hey, they're talking about this a lot these days. I'm seeing this in every movie. I'm seeing this in every show. Every commercial seems to be bringing up this. Shouldn't that now be a clue to those of us who are aware about what might be coming next down the pike?
yeah, I mean, definitely you can make people blind to what's actually happening in front of them. This is like the oldest mind control trick in the book. So basically, if I want all this to play out in front of you and make sure you don't notice, that's its own mind control trick. And it involves me getting a hold of you as a young person and sending you to school. So I would send you to school and I would remove what's called the HOS, which is your human operating system, from your mental hard drive. And I'm going to lay in the LOS, the lie-based operating system. And maybe there's many sections to that LOS, the lie-based operating system. But maybe one of the lies that I program you to believe is that the government would never lie to you or the government would never try to hurt you. And so, with this software already operating in your mental hard drive, it's been shown that if I'm the government and I can program you to believe I won't hurt you, I can hurt you in any number of ways and you can't see it as an adult unless you uninstall the LOS yourself and reinstall the human operating system that God gave you. And often it's like a cult as well. If you study cults like the fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ in Utah, if you study them, sometimes for you to realize you're under mind control or realize you're in a cult and realize you have a lie-based operating system inside your mental hard drive, you actually have to have time or isolation away from the other cult members or away from the indoctrination machine. And that's usually, and if you have enough pain as well, you can conduct on yourself what's called a program breakdown. And you can snap out of the lie-based operating system, realize that it's very fatalistic. It causes you some pain or moderate pain, in many cases, extreme pain. And and only then can you start processing reality as reality. Because if you think if 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 part of your indoctrination as a child told you vaccines were safe and effective, and you're processing reality through that program, you can't see anything else other than the program. So that means you could be in an armed dark clinic. Someone could pass away in front of you. You're going to process the information through your lie-based operating system, which means, oh, they were probably sick when they came in. It can't be the arm dart. They're safe and effective. I'm just going to move forward in the line. So the most nefarious forms of mind control are done at the school level because it lays in a sort of a illusionary way, a computer program to process life through.
Well, this is why I've been calling them indoctrination centers ever since the beginning. And I think, homeschooling is of the utmost importance today because, like you said, the powers that ought not be probably operate under the modus operandi of get them while they're young. And, it was that Russian KGB agent who once said in an interview famously with G. Edward Griffin that you can control and steer entire generations just by influencing the thoughts of the youth, and it grows exponentially. But again, this means it can be undone with a number of tactics, and in just one or two generations, this can be undone. So it sounds like you're saying it is possible to break free from this form of mind control that we're in, but it's going to involve breaking free from the group or potentially influencing the group to break free, right? I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Ash conformity experiment. I'm sure you are.
Mhm.
Professor Solomon Ash, who back in I think it was the 60s or so, um, did these experiments where he had a number of subjects, and one of them was the test subject. They're the only one who's not in on it. And a lot of the people were instructed to give the incorrect answer to a very easy question. And so what he found was more times than not, more often than not, the test subject would conform to the rest of the group. He would just say what everybody else was saying, even though he knew it was the incorrect answer. But something people don't know about that experiment is that he introduced a different test where he put in a friendly ally. So now people are instructed to give the incorrect answer, but one person was instructed to give the correct answer. And he found out that that one person influenced the test subject to tell the truth like 95% of the time. Conformity drops to 5% when just one other person in the group does the right thing and speaks out. So maybe you could talk to that about this potential ripple effect that could happen when people start living with integrity and they start breaking free from the mind control. Isn't that a good way of waking up others to the programming they're under?
Yeah, this is about leading by example. And if you go to the Solomon Ash experiment where their counterpart wasn't there to back them up, it was shown, or it has been shown, that the stronger that individual is on all levels, the less likely he is to comply. So the people psychologically nudging us know that you'll comply more the weaker you are. So that's very important for countering it, which means if they know that you're sort of afraid on many levels, if there's four people saying, like in the Solomon Ash experiment, they might have given the answer A, but it was the wrong answer. The real answer was B. The stronger you are as an individual, like spiritually, physically, mentally, and even financially, the less likely you are to feel that pressure from the group and feel the need to comply. If you feel strong enough to say no, where you not like you realize and recognize if I don't go along with the group, I could be like made fun of, or I could even be verbally attacked, not only mocked, but attacked verbally. Maybe I could be physically attacked. And I know you have strength like no one else does, really, because I've seen you in interviewing people in hostile environments, and you keep very calm, which is a very rare attribute. But a lot of people can't feel strong unless they lift weights, or they know they could fight a lawsuit if there was a problem, or they're spiritually strong because they know maybe God's on their side. See, there's some weird things that the ruling group knows about us. That's why they're attacking the church, as a little segue, because they found out that someone's really able to say no to their group pressure-based mind control if they believe God has their back. So this is why they're attacking the church. This is why they're prompting or mind controlling other people to burn the churches down. This is why they closed the churches during COVID. This is why Deborah Birx said you're not allowed to sing in the church because it might throw the virus more than 6 feet. So this group knows every aspect of what makes you stronger. It's not necessarily the person's going to say no to every piece of group pressure, but the stronger you are on every level, the more apt you are to just say what you got to say and throw care to the wind. And this is why they poison our food. They inject poison into us. They make us watch people murder each other on Netflix all the time. They make coffee shops like in Canada, like the Tim Hortons, is very aesthetically unappealing. There's no beauty in any of the architecture, the strip malls, etc. They know how to like really weaken us on every single level before they attack. And they really put a good 5 decades into making us super weak before they launch the attack in 2020, because it just increases compliance with the group pressure.
Wow, that's such a good point. The fact that we're being chemically bombarded through our food, through our water, through the air, that we're being spiritually manipulated through the closing downs of the churches, the things we're seeing on TV, the fact that we've got pharmaceutical giants using sorcery, really. A lot of people don't know the word sorcery comes from pharmakia in the Bible, which is where we get the word pharmaceuticals. So it sounds like, a good way to initially start to get that guard up of mind control is to have your own home sustainable garden, to be involved in a church, to get spiritual feeding by reading the Bible, to have a network of people around you who you can count on, and to not be reliant on pharmaceuticals or the government or the banks. This is essentially going to be the thorn in the side of those who are trying to pull the puppet strings, right? Somebody who can be self-sufficient, self-sustainable, not reliant on them, and physically, mentally, and spiritually strong moving forward, right? So that kind of sounds like one of the key factors in how to break down mind control.
Yes, it's strength is key. And of course, education is key too, because if you don't understand how the repetitive content operates, that's why I made Planet Mind Control, just to give some very firm examples so people know how powerful it is and that anybody can be put under mind control in a matter of minutes, even though they think they're well above it. So if anybody wants to watch that, they can go to planetmindcontrol.com, watch it for free. And then we do go over the same solutions in the documentary where it's about strength, try to eat right, exercise, go to bed on time. And we even have handouts and recommendations about what you need to do to increase your physical strength. And physical strength is the easiest. And then after that, maybe some emotional strength, staying calm and in sticky situations, spiritual strength, knowing why you're here. You're not here to be a taxed human cattle. These are the things you have to, and it starts with a mental shift, right, Dan? I mean, all if someone doesn't have the budget to change at the moment, you can always do a mental shift. It's always for free. And just say to yourself mentally, I don't deserve to be extorted by the most mentally defective people in the tribe. And make your first mental shift and everything will, fall. The dominoes will start falling as they should after that.
Wow. Well, you've given people a lot of food for thought here to think about, and practical solutions that they can engage in to protect themselves against mind control that we know is going to be coming down the pike. Like they're talking about all these future pandemics. We got hantavirus, we got apparently Ebola now, and who knows what else might be coming. I guess what you're saying is you have to stay 2 steps ahead of this kind of stuff. You have to recognize the programming, you have to see it for what it is, and you have to remain healthy, strong, and capable of blocking it out. And then hopefully that will generate that Ash conformity ripple effect of the friendly ally who will then inspire others to want to do the same thing, right? So Fantastic stuff. I know you actually run some courses on stuff like this to be able to not only teach people how to break free from the mind control, but how to influence others in order to be able to break free from the mind control as well, right? What can you tell us about that?
Well, basically, I do run three flagship programs every year. I think what you're talking about, I do certify overcoming self-sabotage coaches, which really means that I teach people, it's an intense course, and I teach them about mind control and brainwashing and psychological manipulation. And we have our own intake form, and we can really break down sort of what mind control programs are frequent in your nervous system, and then we can use positive forms of mind control to uninstall the negative ones and override and write some new programs so that your life runs a lot more effectively and efficiently. And I just tell people it's just best to maybe go watch Planet Mind Control, because when you go to the website, you do have to put your email in. And then once your email, I have your email, you're automatically on my email list. And then I will teach you for free over time how to look at today's news stories through the lens of a mind control researcher so that you can understand where they're going. Because you have to, I don't want to say you have to think like a psychopath, but you have to understand they never leave anything alone. They want to push everybody. Let's say with locking people out of the woods. I mean, the fire bans and they were locking people out. But if you know how this group works and you know they psychologically nudge you, they're always going to try and keep you out of the forest because they don't want you with the healthy food. And then if you're not allowed in the forest and because you can't hunt a moose and you can't go fish for any fish, well, you don't need your guns, do you? Right? So why would you need your guns if you're banned from the forest? So just understand that the way they work, the psychological nudging, it always goes and pushes up against the next agenda. Like they want to keep you out of the woods so you don't have access to God's food. Then you don't need your guns. And then say there's ticks in the forest and we can't have anybody go out and get bitten by the ticks because brings all the viral infection or all the Lyme disease back to the 15-minute city. So we're just going to lock everybody in the 15-minute city. All the agendas are locked together by various steps of mind control. So if you can see where they're trying to drive you by understanding mind control, you can really start speaking out in the right way. And you're going to look like a modern day Nostradamus because you can front run them 3 years and call them out, and they really don't like that when you find out how they play their games.
Yes, I think that's one of the big takeaways we can have from this interview is that this reverse social engineering, so to speak, is possible, and we can stay two steps ahead in many aspects, whether that's with maintaining our health, our mentality, our spiritual well-being, but also paying such close attention that we can recognize what's coming down the pike many years before it does. So that's fantastic. I think a lot of viewers of this are probably feel that they're already pretty good at that, but there's so many ways that we can expand our knowledge in that area. And so I want to thank you for helping to break that down for everybody. Where's the best place for people to go online if they want to watch the film and they want to learn more from you?
Yeah, if they want to learn more from me, I mean, they can go to the article section of my website, jchristoff.com. But again, the best place to start, it's entertaining. Trust me, the documentary is only an hour long. It's super entertaining. It's Hollywood based. Just go to planetmindcontrol.com, drop your email in, and you'll get to watch the film for free. And it's shocking, it's electrifying, it's entertaining. It's something everybody will love watching.
Fantastic. Well, I will have links for that in the description below. I strongly want to encourage everybody to definitely check that out. This is, again, not something that you can just wish to be unaffected by. You're going to be affected by this whether you like it or not. The question is, how much are you going to take it upon yourself to fight these types of things moving forward? And Planet Mind Control is a great way to learn how to do just that, to fight these things moving forward. So once again, man, I'm going to encourage everybody to check out that link in the description. And thank you so much for joining us today to break all that down.
Thanks, Dan.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.